Full disclosure, the voice you are listening to now is artificially generated, brought to you by satisphonic.com. See the link in the description for more details. What screams, I'm a man. Child, but nobody realize it. Their explosive emotions are valid, even when exaggerated, but yours are never, and you're just dramatic. I read something once that said that men only think women are more emotional because they don't count anger as an emotion. Just summed up every musing I've heard from sexist men. I am a man. Not taking care of your animals. Never apologizing. Never being wrong. That would be my father. Edit. We have done a lot of things wrong with you, but you have to just accept it because we're your parents. My mother said this to me, while my father just sat and glared at me without saying a word. No, I ran to a friend's house in the middle of the night 3 weeks ago without telling you because I don't accept it. Stayed with a friend for a while longer after that. Our father. They have extremely strict morals and principles. When citing them will get them out of doing something. They will drop all morals and principles when ignoring them will get them out of doing something. I had a roommate who refused to share food, like at a meal, which he referred to as pick eating. He would not give you a bite of his dish or allow you to eat one of his fries, as he viewed it as unsanitary. However, if you made a pot of chili, you could spit in the pot and he'd still eat half of it. This actually contributed to the end of our association. Late one night, we stopped at a fast food joint and I got a hamburger. Realizing that I'd forgotten the napkins, I left the table to get some. I returned to find 2 large bites. Take an hour of my burger. I just wanted to know what it tasted like, he explained. Then give me 2 bites of your burger, I demanded. I don't like it when people pick, eat, he suggested. In one of my least proud moments, I slapped him hard across the face, causing him to get tangled in the awkward Hardee's seats that are mounted to the floor. I left him at Hardee's, and we parted ways the following week. It was a culmination of similar pain in the ass events, but to this day it chaps my ass. My bio mother won a split a menu item meant to be part of a meal for one person. Me, I'm really hungry. I probably want a whole one. My bio mother, oh well, then I'll just have a few bites of yours. Me, well then, can we also get side? My bio mother, no, I'm not that hungry. I'll just have a little bit of your menu item. My bio mother eats more than half of my food, leaving me maybe 13 of a sandwich as a meal. This one infuriates me. I will often buy a food item, especially a multi-serving item like a bag of chips, and my wife, who is one of the easiest people in the world to live with, will eat the entire product before I've had any. To combat this on occasions like the one you describe, or when I'm buying something that I really want to eat, I'll look her dead in the face and say, I'm not sharing this with you. Other people look at me like I'm the world's biggest asshole when I do this, but she knows what I'm talking about. Just this weekend, I ordered a pizza for us to share, and 2 of her friends showed up unexpectedly. Before I had even realized that the pizza had arrived, they'd eaten all of it. She was very apologetic, but I was very hungry. That's still so rude, lol. You can apologize 1,000,000 times, but if the behavior doesn't change, then it doesn't mean shit. That was very satisfying to read. Sorry, he was a jerk. Not learning how to perform basic domestic tasks like laundry, dishes, etc. If they make an active decision not to learn those things, it just tells me they want a mommy and not a partner. Do these guys just keep a string of girlfriend mommies? How do you function beyond your late teens without being able to take care of basic housekeeping? I know one of these guys, and he went directly from his mom doing it to married. It was not until somewhat later that his wife realized that his parents had been driving the 2-3 hours each way from their home once a week so that his mom could fill his fridge and clean the house while his dad mowed the lawn, etc. Frankly, I give the parents some of the blame for that level of enablement. Upon divorce, the parents went back to doing all of this and more. Nah, bro, that's some weird shit. 3 children stacked on top of each other in a trench coat. Ah, I see you've met Vincent Adeltman, who works at the business factory. When he refers to watching his own kids as babysitting or acts like it's a favor. I helped my wife with the kids. I actually get offended when people say this to me. No, I didn't help my wife with a kid. I parented. It's 5,050, not 1090. No one is helping the other. We are taking care of our kid. Living in Ireland, that's an all too common experience. The bar for dads is unbelievably low here. In Ireland, I would think the bar for dads is just around the corner low. Screeching down a neighborhood in the evening. I know you're referring to doing it in a vehicle, but I'm imagining a grown man sprinting down the street screaming at the top of lung. Just the one lung though. He's a man-child, not a man-baby after all. When I was 17 and learning to drive, my instructor was a Jamaican guy with a thick patois accent. And in regards to those people, let's face it, men, with loud cars ripping down the road, he would say, "Ya make a BD noise, but you going nowhere." Currently moving out of the apartment I share with my boyfriend because he is jealous of my dog, the one I had for years before we started dating. It started off with little things and has escalated to the dog needing to be in a cage 247 or I get the silent treatment. Good riddance, fucker. Good for you. Inability to compromise, ever. Feeling the need to man the other men you are around. I knew a guy like this. He was exhausting F and would be the guy to start fights in clubs when he had a few drinks. I knew 2 guys like this. Oh yay, I knew 4. My 4 can beat your 4 sup. The imaginary pissing match between men is exhausting, especially when there's new women around. This is when they get real big and loud. Now, all forms of humble bragging comes out. Lack of respect for people doing things for them, even when paid. Being short or rude to service staff, not saying thank you and please, etc. Thankfully, this is usually easy to spot on first date. My boss is like this. First time I realized she is a bad person, and my respect for her tanked. You know where the weight room is? I'm trying to beat my personal record. Everybody but the man, child in question, will notice this. Never owning up to your mistakes, and constantly blaming something else for their... How dare you point that out? Sorry, but Op was pointing my ex, and you're definitely not my ex. Narcissism is, I'm the hero, or I'm the victim. Lived with it for 17 years. He'd also work 6 months at a job, long enough to qualify for unemployment, and mysteriously get fired. Draw unemployment for 6 months. Rinse, repeat. It also manifests in I will stand my ground and never accept defeat in an argument even when you walk them step by step through the argument, agreeing to each move before continuing until you bring them to the logical, objective truth at the end, and they've agreed to 95% of everything, and they've agreed to 95% of everything, and the last step is just crossing the finish line and officially accepting that you were right and they were wrong. But instead of accepting reality like an adult, they choose to fight on by just repeating their initial statement again. So now you're back to square one. And at that point you have to realize that people curate the reality that they want to live in, and facts can't hurt your argument if you don't believe in them. Yep, I ended a long-time friendship with a guy for this exact reason. Guy was on trial for stalking a girl. One would only blame woke society and how all girls today are sluts or whatever. He was literally caught placing a Jeeps on his ex's car and tried to act like he's the victim because his rich daddy had to spend an insane amount on his defense team. It was the last straw for me. I'm an alpha. I always just think of this in terms of software. Ah, yes, alpha. Feature incomplete and untested. More like, yay, you're a fucking loser. Nah, I'm an alpha, and you're just a jealous and insecure beta. This attitude, B2 is also a typical man-child thing. I always wonder about these people. You see them at a BBK alpha as fuck, but you know that they make $10 an hour cleaning toilets at Home Depot and live with their parents. It's never an actual successful person spouting this bullshit. That's why the Andrew Tate crap is so prolific. It requires no energy or real work to act like an alpha douche nuzzle. You just feed into the ego, and it's done. It also reasons that you must not have any introspection, so it's easy to get lost in it. Alpha, beta, sigma nonsense. I'm an alpha male. I'm not even close to ready for a public release, but I'm hoping for an open beta soon. Also, you're a furry is always the best response to this nonsense, as it always gets under the person's skin. If you talk about alpha, beta, whatever stuff, I just assume you are still in that adolescent phase where you're trying to figure out how to be a real man. Otherwise, why would you spend so much energy thinking about what Greek letter of manliness defines you, or how to be more like this or that kind of male? Every so often, a big thread comes up from a guy 17, 25, moving into his first place on his own and looking to start bringing lady friends home, asking for suggestions of what to put in the apartment to make it welcoming to women. This is not man-childish. It's fine and good. There was one I can recall where either the op or probably just some really invested commenter was angry at most of the suggestions, in particular one suggesting multiple blankets, an extra pillow and an extra towel in the event a woman slept over. But that's just catering to her. Why should a guy have things in his apartment just to cater to her? While it's rarely expressed so directly, it's an attitude I see in bitter, lonely man-children a lot. Why should I do anything for you if it's not something I want? Doesn't matter if the action is as mundane as own 2 towels, or if they want something from the person they're catering to. Women should just sleep with them, not expect comfort or entertaining dates. Employers should just give them jobs and fat paychecks. They shouldn't need things like qualifications or hard work. Friends should just loan them money and entertain them on a dime, but never ask them for anything. When I was in my 20s, I dated a man who lived with a male roommate, and they had a courtesy basket of basic period supplies in their bathroom. We're now married and have 2 kids together. The courtesy basket wasn't why we got married, but I was actually endeared to him because of how thoughtful of others he and his roommate were. Recognizing that you have female friends over, and sometimes they might need a pad as just a general courtesy, is a thing most men would never even consider. I saw an advice meme once telling guys to keep period supplies. The comment section was a trip. There were the typical, she's gonna think you're in a relationship guys who couldn't fathom why a woman would be in their apartment outside of a one-night stands, during which they don't communicate with each other at all. But the ones that really cracked me up were the guys who got viscerally angry at the mere suggestion that you do something nice for women. One guy said not to do that because it'll teach women to become reliant on you, and they'll know they can keep using you. Like we're dogs or some shit. Don't feed us, or you won't be able to get rid of us. This is such a thing. Like using the word simp to describe doing things for your partner in a normal, loving relationship. Like, no man, I pack my wife's lunch because I love her. Are you okay? I refer to this as the women are my mother phase, where the man still acts like a toddler who can't even imagine that its mother is a person who has her own needs, which is normal for a toddler who is completely dependent on their mother and can't really do much to help her. Except here it's an adult man and he still sees all women, including his own mother, this way. So he can't imagine that a woman would decide not to cater to him because he doesn't do anything for her. To him, he's just thinking, why isn't this woman taking care of me without expecting anything in return? Not taking out your garbage for weeks on end when you live in an apartment building, even when the weather gets really hot and your trash stinks so badly that simply walking into the building is like being hit in the face with a decomposing corpse. Yes, man, child in N33, I'm talking to you. You should ask for a wellness check. He could be dead or trying to hide a body. This happened at the last apartment complex I lived in. For over a week straight, I had to walk by one apartment to check the mail, and it reeked to no end, but I didn't think anything of it, thought it was just gross people. Come home one day and there were more cops than I've ever seen at once in my life. Turns out the couple that lived in that apartment were both dead, murder-suicide, and that week of bad smells was bodies rotting in record-high summer temperature. Last summer, at peak stench, the property manager went in for exactly that reason and just found bags of garbage. I don't know how thoroughly she searched for bodies, but the smell did diminish when she took the garbage out, so I assumed that's all it was. This summer, I'm not so sure. The tenant himself is fine, making his usual living noises. But, I tell you, if his fridge turns out to be full of decapitated heads, I won't keel over in shock. Bags of garbage, this is the answer. Sort of. Those bags have food in them. That food rots. That kind of stinks, but it's manageable. Once the food is rotting, the eggs bugs have laid in it start hatching. Now there's an entire ecosystem in that bag, and that stinks. Life in Black Plastic with David Attenborough. I'd definitely watch. I just got excited thinking you were telling us the title of the real, already existing documentary starring the narration of world-renowned Sir David Attenborough. Story time. I have anosmia. I was born without a sense of smell. I get paranoid about things like my garbage, body odor, etc., partly because I can't tell if things stink, and partly because people often won't tell me when something stinks. I used to work as a consulting radiation expert. I did a spell traveling to rural dental surgeries to test X-ray machine. When I finished, I was driving around for weeks, including having people in my car, until I picked up my best friend, who immediately stopped me and said, "Something is dead in your car." I opened the bonnet, and nothing dead. The engine was absolutely covered in possum shit. Apparently, they will sleep on engines in winter because they are warm. My car had smelled like hot possum shit for a month, with everyone being too polite to bring it up with me. Nothing to do with your man-child. He just sounds like a dick, but I wanted to tell that story. Lifted Karma Rhapsody that is neither lifted properly nor truly off-road capable. Larping as military on roads. Pavement princesses. Mall terrain vehicle. Can't control your temper. There's nothing more pathetic than seeing a grown adult man having a hissy fit. He breaks stuff and punched holes in walls over things. Doesn't even matter how big or small the trigger. Immediate signal, he's a man-child and incapable of regulating himself and his emotions. Edit. Seeing some people defend this behavior or arguing semantic. If a man is constantly showing aggressive behavior to the point of breaking things, or is someone who defends this behavior, yeah, I'd say both are massive red flags. I used to have a huge problem with this. I'm glad I don't act that way anymore. I'm happy to hear this. That's great news, and I think you should be proud of yourself. Putting other men down for liking books or video games while they obsess over sports, Fast and the Furious, and cars. Everyone has a hobby, and we all have things we enjoy. Liking video games or books doesn't make you any less of a man. Acting like watching sports makes you manly always seems like projection to me. How is a guy sitting on his fat ass watching football games all weekend any better than another guy sitting on his ass reading books or playing video games all weekend? It's the same damn thing. Yeah, how is memorizing football stats and wearing the memorabilia not considered nerdy? I don't get it. Put any sports stadium crowd next to any Comic-Con crowd, and you'll find just as many out-of-shape people, and just as many people, and just as many people in costumes and makeup. My 11-year-old nephew, who is the world's sweetest and coolest kid, told me his friend smashed the friend's Switch screen because he lost a game. He said it like it was funny or cool, so I raised my eyebrows and said, "Your friend sounds dumb." He looked uncomfortable. And just today his brother told me he threw a controller cause he lost a game, and I gave him the same look. He again looked uncomfortable. I think I need to sit him down and tell him that breaking things when you're angry isn't funny or cool. Plus he isn't rich like his friends are, and my sister can't afford to keep replacing his expensive electronics. Huge Monster Energy logos in his back window. I am always amazed when I see stuff like that, because I simply can't imagine who this person is. I used to work in construction and knew plenty of white, trashy redneck dudes. Never met one that would have had a monster sticker on their truck. I worked in sales, which was populated with a bunch of sketchy cokehead dudes. No monster stickers. Used to hang out with a few hardcore gamers, like full-on energy drinks. Never water Mountain Dew loving haven't changed their shirt in 3 days gamer bros. None of them would have done that. And yet I see these stickers all the time. Does anybody know who these Monster Energy drink sticker people are? If you know one, please explain this character to me, because I don't think I have ever met one. I genuinely don't know who these people are. Edit. So I am getting gym bros, extreme sports people, and people that work around activities sponsored by Monster, and I suppose that makes sense since I don't think I've ever been very close to that stuff. Truck nuts. Always needing to be right. Weaponized incompetence. Intentionally doing a piss-poor job at whatever you're asked to do, just to ensure that you're never asked to do it again. I'm a nice guy, but you just want one of those, insert literally any descriptive word, guys. Or you're ugly anyways. I only swiped right because I felt bad for you. Actually, come to think of it, I'm pretty sure everyone realizes by now that those phrases scream man-child. Hey! Whatever, still relevant. Bitches about having to babysit his own kids. Burning Barbie dolls and filming it because a movie hurts your feelings. When he can't even do a load of washing. Not knowing things is never a shame, as long as you are willing to learn rather than being proud of your ignorance.